Hi, good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to you all. My name is Sanjana, and I'm with the admissions and outreach team at Azim Premji University. As you may all know, the university was established in the year 2010 under the Azim Premji University Act of the Government of Karnataka. Azim Premji Foundation set up the university as a fully philanthropic and not for profit institution with a clear social purpose. The university aims to prepare competent, motivated, and socially committed graduates who can significantly contribute to the education and development sectors in India. We also wish to inform you that we are accepting applications for our undergraduate and postgraduate programs for the academic year 2022. We have been hosting a series of webinars giving you an overview of the programs offered by our university. Today, we have with us Manoj Kumar, member of faculty with the School of Education. And the topic to be discussed today is classroom engagement in a physical setting a non negotiable of the educational institution? We are sure you will have a lot of queries. We request you to kindly wait till the end of the presentation and we will answer them all. You can post your questions on the YouTube channel itself. Thank you, everyone, and over to you, Manoj sir.
Very good afternoon, and again welcome you all on the behalf of Azim Premji University. And thanks for joining. Late in the afternoon. I know this is not the right time for entering into any academic conversation. Rather, it's a time for badminton or table tennis or something interesting, rather than discussing some of these issues. But as you have joined, so I'll safely assume that you are interested in this topic and you share some of the concerns which person like I have. The topic which Sanjana just said, and some of you know the topic. So the question we are encountering at the moment, that now over the last 2 years we have been experiencing different kinds of learning environment. So we had earlier physical classroom and we used to interact in a physical classroom, and that's the kind of habit we had. But the situation turned in such a way somewhere in 2020, the first quarter of 2020, that we realized that now it's not possible to kind of conduct classroom in a physical space, and coming together in a closed physical space is not safe for our health and for the public health. And we had to take this decision that we will go and explore other modes of interaction. And we were fortunate that we had adequate technology, and that those technologies enabled us to kind of conduct some of the teaching, conduct some of the classes in some ways. And there were disruption in teaching and learning, of course, no matter what we did, but we retained some of the elements of the classroom. So we had this online classrooms, right? When this pandemic receded and there are multiple waves, we still don't know whether we are going back to the normal or we will have more waves. We hope this is over, but that's just a hope. So when the pandemic receded, we retained again the classroom. We got back to our classrooms, and that moment when we got back to our classroom, many people felt really, really happy and excited, enthused, energized, right? Person like me and many of my colleagues and students, we simply felt good. And since then, I have been asking this question to myself, whether this is just a matter of habit, whether this is just a nostalgia with which we live, because, we have lived through certain ages and we always been to the classroom, either as a student or as a teacher, or we sent our children to school classrooms and all that. So this is classroom is part of our, our ecology, our social ecology, social setting. So probably it's a matter of habit, it's a matter of nostalgia, or there is something very significant in the physical setting, very significant in the way we conduct our classroom and teaching in learning, organize our teaching and learning in a physical setting. Is there something essential? So the question which I encountered, and probably many of you, encounters these days, that whether classroom in a physical setting, I'm not talking about all kinds of classroom in a physical setting is one of the necessities. It's indispensable, or this is just one of the options. We have multiple options. We Technology has enabled us to explore many options, and maybe physical classroom is one of the options. We still stick to it because of just a kind of sense of nostalgia, or we are habituated to it, or we have inculcated this habit over the centuries and millennia, and that's where we are. So this is the question which I had in my mind, and I started thinking about it, and I'm sharing my whatever I could share at the moment. And just to give you this disclaimer that this is just like a loud thinking, so don't expect me to answer any of these questions, but probably it's worth exploring these questions at the moment, because this is one of the questions we have been encountering, right, for the last couple of years. So I'll be answering these questions in two parts. Uh, and the first part is whether virtual classroom will replace the physical classroom, right? And the second question which we'll be asking is, and which we'll be exploring is, whether virtual classrooms should replace the physical classroom. Now, there is a slight difference, not slight difference, significant difference between these two questions and two ways of asking almost same question. When I say whether it will replace the physical classroom, when I use the model verb like will, I'm saying it that I'm raising the question of feasibility, whether it's feasible to do away with physical classroom at all. So this is a question of feasibility, right? And answering this question or thinking about this question needs certain kind of futuristic thinking, certain kind of foresight, certain kind of, certain capability to anticipate the technological changes and things like that. So that requires certain kind of cognitive engagement and certain kind of futuristic thinking. And I am not good at either, but probably I'll try to explore this question as well, the question of feasibility. But the second question is, equally significant. Whether, even if suppose technology enables us to, treat physical classroom just as an option, should we do away with physical classroom? So this question of should is question of ethical desirability. So whether it's ethically desirable to do away with the classroom, and this raising these ethical question is equally significant for anyone working in the domain of education or any other such human engagement. Raising this ethical question is as significant as raising the question of feasibility. So there could be certain things feasible, but yet we raise certain questions. Suppose human cloning becomes prevalent, and we somewhere acquired certain easy technology for human cloning, like we have acquired easy technology for so many things. I mean, technology is there, but it's not available to everyone. But suppose human cloning is available to everyone, and it's an easy technology. What should we do? Should we start doing human cloning or not? One part of this question and one way of answering this question is through probing this question by bringing certain kind of ethical frame. What kind of impact it will make on human civilizations and human cultures? So we'll raise this question. So we'll raise the question of ethical desirability also. In this case also, I feel we have to raise ethical question. So I'll be exploring this question in two parts. The first part of the conversation is going to be exploring the feasibility question. And even if I am not trained and not, equipped to deal with this question, I'll try to think through it, because, this question is something which is very significant for, teachers like me. So I cannot just leave it aside. I have to deal with this question as much as I can. And in the second part, I'll be dealing with this desirability question. So that's the two part. In the two part, I'll be trying to explore this key question: whether classroom is indispensable, necessary, or this is just one of the options. All right. So one thing I realized, how to answer this question, whether classroom is going to be there or not. See, one way to answer this question is by looking at historical precedents and looking at historical experiences. All right. What I realized that this classroom has outlived many technological transformations. At the moment of technological transformation, we feel that this is one of the most significant, most radical technological transformations. But as a human civilization, we have been facing technological transformation since ages, and all those technological transformations were kind of radical transformation. I'll give you some examples, and then probably we can see whether classroom have survived through these major transformations or not. Take the example of writing. Writing was a great invention, great innovation, right? It changed the way we perceive the world. Imagine that we speak so many sentences, so many, we keep speaking, and the speech is endless. And then through certain technology, we realize that there are limited numbers of alphabet, and through that limited number of alphabets, I'm not using the technical term, say alphabets, we can write whatever we speak. We can capture our speech through limited number of alphabets, and we can retain that. Even person who is speaking will disappear, die, will retain those things through writing. That was the great intervention, the great invention and great innovation. The question which we should be asking is whether writing replaced speech, or related question, whether writing in a classroom in any way sort of replaced the speech in the classroom. And you know the answer. Answer is no. Writing didn't replace the speech. But whether writing makes significant impact in the way we speak, probably yes. Writing does make a significant impact in the way we speak. After invention of writing, our speaking was not same. Our speech was not same. Probably it has made certain impact. So there is one. I mean, I'll be mentioning Marshall McLuhan later. That McLuhan is one media theorist, and he has brought this idea of media ecology. So new entrants in media ecology change the entire media ecology, but it doesn't replace it. I mean, it doesn't replace, not necessarily replace. Probably we can take a few more examples, and then it will be, it will be clearer. From writing, we had second major technological transformation in terms of print. We started printing written words, right? Instead of writing things, handwriting and preparing manuscripts, we started printing, n numbers of books, lakhs and crores of books. We started printing and circulating. And printing has made significant impact in the way we associate with each other. It has made impact on culture, society, politics, religion, and of course, education, right? And the changes which print technology has brought in human civilization, that has been properly underlined, documented by historians and cultural theorists. I don't need to spend too much time on this, but probably many of you know that certain theories of nationalism, certain political theories, they take cognizance of this transformation. But whether print technology replaced handwriting or not, that is the question we need to ask. And then going ahead, you have multiple technological transformation in terms of telegraphs, in terms of telephone, and each of these transformation was radical transformation. These are not just incremental transformation, incremental changes. These are radical changes. These technological advancement or innovations brought radical changes, right? What I see and what I realized that, the physical classroom has outlived all these technological transformations. And then you need to ask this question: why physical classroom outlived, and how physical classroom has endured all these technological transformation? And the simple answer to this difficult question is, where we can start thinking and then you can further explore this question, is probably classroom has incorporated all these technology. So media ecology of a good classroom is a very complex ecology, right? We have multiple things in our classroom. We work in multimodal media condition and very complex media ecology in a classroom. And by incorporating various technologies, a physical classroom has survived, right, through ages, right? So just think the way we have our classroom today. In our classroom, we have chalk and board, handwriting. In our classroom, we have notebooks. In our classroom, we have printed textbooks, worksheets, and we also have sometimes handouts and other materials. In our classroom, we have, if classroom is well equipped, and classroom should be well equipped. So in a well equipped classroom, we have, we have capacity and we have wherewithals to project or play audiovisual material. We have a system of projecting our slides, PowerPoint presentation. So, and don't forget, we have a speech, the most ancient way of interacting with each other. We interact with each other through a speech. We have not lived aside the speech. So we have a speech, we have handwriting, we have print, and we have other new technologies. All right. Now, just see that this is the kind of ecology which that constitutes a classroom, and that's the way classroom has sort of survived so far and outlived so far. All right. Now we need to pay little attention to this idea that with each edition, the previous things also changes, right? Uh, we, in a very commonsensical way, we try to think in terms of replacement model. So new technology replaces the old technology. That's the way we like to think. That's the way we like to, imagine. But it's not replacement. New, technology somewhere becomes part of, ecology, and that changes the whole ecology. That's a very interesting dynamics which Marcel McLuhan has captured or explained, and probably we in education can learn something from his idea of media ecology and what he calls four laws of media. Right. So the first thing is, I tend to say that classroom will outlive probably this technological shift as well. I mean, based on historical experience, and this is just a hunch. I'm not giving you a final answer. You can think for yourself. But yes, it looks like, looking at the historical experiences, it looks like the classroom is going to, to sort of survive or endured. I would like to use the term endured, not just survive. It will endure. It will be enriched with new technologies, but it's important. All right. So alternative ways of thinking about technological changes is, probably we can take some help from Marcel McLuhan and his four laws of media, what he calls the four laws of media. So two things we already know. Two things. I mean, commonsensically, when we think about media changes, we imagine two things. One is that technology in extends. Technology is extension of human person. So technology enhances our capacity, right? So enhancement. What you can see in the left corner, enhancement is something which any technology does, and we need to spend a little bit of time here for those of you not aware of this conversation. So one tradition is there in cultural theory which says that technology is basically extension of our human body and mind. So for example, suppose I want to kind of switch on something right there and my hand doesn't reach it there, then probably I'll take a stick, I'll use my pen as a stick and I'll just switch it off or switch it on. So this pen is, which is I'm using now as a tool, is extension of my hand. Likewise, I cannot see many things without my glasses, but by wearing my glasses, I can see things. So this glass is sort of extension of my eyesight or eye. All right. I can walk 2 kilometers in 10 minutes, but if I cycle, I can I can travel more. So that's extension of my walking capacity. So basically, technology is a kind of extension of your different capability, and it's not about it's also about the cognitive capability. So with technology you can you can save too many files in your computer, and you can extend your memory by artificial memory of computer and things like that. So basically that's the kind of extension, is something which we have experienced it, and we think that technology does it. Technology makes certain things irrelevant. New technology makes certain things irrelevant. So sort of it makes certain things obsolete. And the word he has used is obsolescence. So that means when you have a computer, the typewriter disappeared. When we had this mobile phones, the old STD booths disappeared. Those of you who have lived through 80s and 90s know that we used to have STD booths in each corner of our city. Now there is no STD booth. So new technology replaces old technology, and that is something that I don't need to spend time on this. We all know that. But other than replacing, McLuhan says new technology also brings something which we have replaced or which we have sort of sidestepped earlier. So, for example, with the advent of print, there was this culture of literacy which somewhere subjugated the culture of orality, right? But when television came, culture of orality came back. It retrieved that culture of orality. Another interesting example which he gives is from the idea of car as an automobile. And by the way, McLuhan uses the term media in a very broad sense, and he takes many things under its purview. He talks about currency node, he talks about road, he talks about car. Probably some of you know. So in terms of car replaced earlier modes of transportation. But he says that car also retrieves certain things very interesting. And that's a very fascinating example. He says that car retrieved an element of being a medieval knight with armor. Now, some of you might have seen this picture in your textbook, particularly when you read European history, medieval European history. There were knights wearing all kinds of armors to protect, from enemy. So if enemy attacks by sword or something, they used to kind of protect them. So it's like a bulletproof of that time. So when we travel in car, we feel that we are wearing our armors. So it retrieves that sense. So media also retrieves. New media also retrieves something which we have subjugated earlier, and you can think through this frame also. And finally, all new media, when it overextended, it reverses. Your eyes. Suppose you are most of the time you are engaging with this world through your eyes, and then your eyes has overextended, but you have lost the idea of touch. Then there is a possibility of reversal. Take this example of car itself. When we realize that all of us, we realize that car provides us this capacity to travel faster to our workplaces, to various places. All of us started buying car. Those of us who have means, we started buying cars. And one day we realized that we are going nowhere. We are stuck in traffic. And if you live in Bangalore, or Delhi or any big city, you know, like I know that, sometimes car doesn't help and you feel like coming out of your car and just walking through it. So that's the limit. That's where you hit the limit. So if you think through technological advancement or commencement of new media and arrival of new media through these four laws, probably you will think differently. You will not think just in terms of replacement of old technology with the new technology. So with these idea, my tentative answer to the first question, whether virtual classroom is going to replace the actual, I'm saying actual means physical classroom, whether it will, whether it's feasible, it looks like no. And this no is tentative because this is based on historical experiences, right? You may have new experience, in future. So futuristic thinking is not as simple as, just looking at past, you can predict the future. In future, there could be something which you have no experience of. So, I mean, that's a tentative answer. So that's the answer of the first question, and that's the first part, that whether it's feasible, looking at historical experience, at least to me, it seems it's not feasible. It's not even feasible. But now consider, even if it's a possibility, it's feasible, whether we should go for it, or we should raise certain ethical question, and probably there we need to think about classroom, and probably aesthetics and ethics of classroom more carefully. See, one thing I'll say that these moments of crisis also provides us opportunity to think about something which we have earlier taken for granted. So we just took classroom for granted. Once we were kind of removed from our physical classroom, we started reflecting and thinking about classroom, and this is the moment of reflection and thinking. So for answering the question of desirability question, we have to think about the aesthetics and ethics of classroom. I'm keeping aside the aesthetics part. I haven't thought about it much. Probably some of you can think about it as well. That is going to be a fascinating thing to do. But ethics of it. See, the classroom is something, right? Classroom is a kind of learning community. I mean, you can imagine classroom very mechanically, the way we imagine so many things. We can imagine classroom in a way where you have a teacher, and you have just give me a minute. No, maybe. So you have a teacher who knows everything, and then you have learners there, and teacher has to communicate certain messages, impart certain knowledge, and there is a receiver out there, and you have to receive as a student. If you imagine this a classroom situation in this way, then probably you'll not see problem in any mode of teaching and learning, and then probably many of these concerns can be taken care of by by the online teaching and online platforms. If there are certain technological challenges, I'm sure there are friends, they will just resolve those challenges. They are very good in resolving technological challenges. But if you imagine classroom as a concrete learning community, then you have to imagine it in terms of relationship. Now, what kind of engagement we have in the classroom, right? Uh, Here I'll try to I'll bring one philosopher, because I when I started asking this question to myself, I get some help from this philosopher Martin Buber. Probably many of you know his work. Martin Buber is 20th century philosopher. He comes from existentialist tradition, and he was a believer. Many existentialist philosophers were non-believer, but he was a believer. So Martin Buber has written one book, not a very voluminous book, very, very thin. It's half poetic, and the title of the book is I and Thou. And probably the word thou, though we don't use the term, word thou in day-to-day conversation. Thou is second person singular pronoun. Now, for second person, we use you for, both for singular or plural, but in Old English, we use thou for second person singular. So, Buber says that we enter in this world and we have two kinds of engagement. One set of engagement is like I and it, right? And other set of engagement is like I and thou. All right. So I and it engagement is engagement where I am a subject. I have consciousness. I am a subject, and I speak for myself, and I use things. So as you know, in as per convention, grammatical convention, we use it for objects. So how do we engage with object in usual fashion? If you're not doing art, we engage with object for our purposes. Each object serves certain purposes, right? It has certain uses, right? For example, this bottle has certain use for me. I drink water from it. My mobile phone has certain use for me. My computer has certain use for me. And existence of my computer is as per my use. It doesn't have it cannot grow away. It cannot go away from my frame. I can simply fix it. It's a fixed kind of relationship. All right. So this is simple subject object kind of relationship. This is a kind of engagement which we have. There is one set of engagement in this world. The other set of engagement in this world is I and thou. So when you speak to your friend, uh, and you expect something your friend, you have heard about friendship, you have certain expectation from friendship, but your friend often surprises you, right? You When you enter into I and thou relationship, he does something which you have not expected before, and you accept that because you imagine him as a person, as a complete human person who has body, mind, and soul, who doesn't have just one aspect of it. So you just give that kind of subjectivity, you give that kind of agency to your friend, and then you enter into this I and thou kind of relationship, right? So in a classroom, probably when we say that we need to create a learning community, we have to enter into this kind of relationship where we have this I and thou framework, not I and it framework. I and it framework can be applied in human conditions also. And unfortunately, and this is something which many scholars have done, particularly Frankfurt School tradition has worked on it. So this, in human condition also, we try to apply the framework of I and it where I want others to do works the way I want, right? The I wish. So I want to manipulate their energy. I want to manipulate their labor. I want to manipulate them so that they do what I like them to do, right? So exercise of power. So it's not impossible to engage with other human being also with the framework of I and it. But if you want a real living learning community, if we imagine classroom as a real living learning community, then probably we have to think about and think through it in the framework of I and thou. And if you want this to be realized in a classroom, we want, full human presence in a real time and a space, in an actual time and space, right? Uh, Many of you are here present in this conversation, and your mind is fully engaged, but I can't see you, or even if technology enables me to see you, I can't probably, I can see just aspect of your presence. I can't see your embodied presence. All right. But in the class, we have embodied presence of our students. Our students have embodied presence of me as a teacher. Right. So, and these are the strange feeling we encountered when we returned to the actual classroom from online classes. In this mode in Zoom classes or Google classes, whatever you do. At best, you can hope to see facial expressions of your students. When you teach, you see the facial expression. You see that they are, whether they're upset or not. But people are very good in not showing their facial expression. But many people are there who can, which where you can where you sense the response by their bodily movement, by their gestures, by their physical movement. And as a teacher in a classroom, when you are saying something and you see that people are not engaged and they're not giving, you are not getting proper response, you change your course right there, and that those opportunities you have. So classroom is a living and concrete learning community, and that requires total communication, right? And for that total communication, we have certain kind of media ecology, complete media ecology, where we don't want to replace the bodily presence of student and teachers in a same time and space. This is a kind of, if I may use the terminology, this is the epistemology of presence. We want that this presence is important. Interestingly, Martin Buber says very important things here. He says that, see, the realm of I and it is realm of experience. We have previous experience with the object and we go by that experience, and that's the I and it realm. In I and thou realm, basically, we have presence, we don't have experience. So we may expect first day as a teacher, you enter in a classroom and then you look around, and based on your previous experiences, you expect certain things from your student. But your student, if it's a real living learning community, your student will often they are going to surprise you, and you as a teacher, you should look forward to those surprises, those amazing moments in a classroom. And then basically, so previous experiences doesn't help, right? Don't help, and it shouldn't help. That's the kind of ethical part of it. If we just go by previous experiences, we have tendency to typecast people. We have tendency to stereotype, right? So I'm giving you a trivial example. Previously, anyone wearing blue shirts, they are not good to me, and I always felt certain unease with the person wearing a blue shirt. Now, if I go by my previous experience and I just objectify someone sitting in a blue shirt in my classroom, and I just start into certain kind of relationship based on that, I'll not be doing justice. I'll give the person chance to kind of do things, and I should be there to change my views as a teacher also. As a teacher also, we don't have to go by fixed views and all that. So that's the idea of classroom, which we wish to retain. And for that, probably I feel that this total experience, in this total experience is very significant. With this notion of, or this framework of I and thou, probably I'll say that no, this is not desirable to completely replace the physical classroom. We do need to have physical classroom. After all, it has survived, through all these technological changes. Probably it needs to survive through this technological changes also. And our attempt should be to enter more and more into our relationship, and ourself is relational. So we need to kind of get into more in the realm of I and thou. One or two things here. See, I, in both the cases you see here, I and thou and I and it. I is same, all right. Okay. So I is same, but when I use this I in the framework of I and it, myself is different. I'm taking different self, right? I'm coming up with my ego. And when I use the term I and thou in the framework, in this framework, I am coming up with different kind of self. So one great and important insight in both philosophy and sociology work like Harvard made, that our self is relational. So if we objectify everyone around us, we ourselves become an object, right? When we dehumanizes everyone, we ourselves will get dehumanized. So if we objectify our student, we as a teacher will become, we get dehumanized. We are going to lose certain things. We are going to lose our identity as a teacher, as a human person, right? So there's reason one should think in terms of engaging with, I and thou kinds of relationship, and thinking in this framework rather than thinking in I and it framework. With this, my answer to the second question also, that probably it is not desirable to kind of do away with this online classes. Now, before I close, I'll just say two things. One, I'll give you one example from my own class, and then probably I can tell something about the paradox of this moment, which I must mention. The paradox of this moment is that I am defending offline classes while using online media. So this is a paradox with which we live, and we live through these paradoxes. Uh, I'm not against new media. I'm not. I'll say that probably we should be guarded against two kinds of extremes. The first extreme is what we call historically. If I see if I have that slide, yeah. So you might have heard about Luddites. It's a movement against machinery. So 19th century, there is this movement when workers realized that these machines are taking over their jobs. They started breaking those machineries. So there's a movement, Luddites. So one should not be Luddites. One should not be breaking the new machinery. That's not the good idea. That movement failed. So this is one extreme, and we need to save ourselves from this extreme. The other extreme is that you have, over enthusiastic, group of people who feels that we can have technological solution to all our social problems. And when you get into that trap, you stop asking ethical questions. And as a human being, we shouldn't be asked, shouldn't be. We should be asking ethical questions, right? No matter what. So that's the second group. So these two extremes, we have to guard ourselves against these two extremes, right? Uh, I could see the paradox of this moment, but just to say that I am not against online media or any kind of online engagement. Probably this is going to change our media ecology in a significant ways. In what ways, I don't have answer. And sometimes in realizing the full potential of media and transformation, it takes 200, 300. So after commencement of print, in 14th, 15th century, people started realizing its impact in 20th century. So we have theories, many theoreticians who've written about the impact of print on human civilization in 20th century. So maybe it will take some time before we'll realize the total impact of this new media in our classroom, in the way we educate ourselves. But we need to keep thinking about these questions. And at the moment, my answer is probably it seems that it's not ethically desirable. However, I'll say, if you will ask me what is non-negotiable, whether physical classroom is non-negotiable or something else, I'll say no. Probably I'll resist saying that physical classroom is non-negotiable. I'll say entering into I and thou kind of relationship is non-negotiable. I'll say that making a concrete learning community and imagining classroom as a concrete learning community is non-negotiable, because that's the way one has to imagine. And I cannot see how we can create concrete learning community without having bodily or embodied presence of learner and teachers in a same time and space, to some extent. I mean, we'll have books, we'll have other things, but yes, I mean, we need to have that kind of commitment. So these two things are non-negotiable. Uh, if this will be resolved. Probably someday we'll not have physical classroom, but I don't see that possibility either. Finally, I'll just tell you one moment of accomplishment as a teacher, and I'll just then close. Right, time is almost up. So when we moved from our offline classes to, online, we moved to offline classes from our online classes. Uh, we started doing several things which we were missing while in the online mode. So we started doing a lot of group works and so many things. So for a course which I teach, Sociology of Education, I teach one unit on modernization. And for teaching modernization this year, what I did, I just gave 4 5 literary pieces, artistic pieces to my students. So there was one painting by Turner on railway, which I gave to one group. I gave another group a story by Rabindranath Tagore, the exercise book. I gave one story by Faniswaranath Renu, Punchlight, so on and so forth. So there were 5 6 groups, and I asked them that you just read it and just see what you can say about modernization, what you can experience about modernization through these stories and these things. And I gave them this freedom. I asked them to do whatever they like to do, with these materials. You can just make oral presentation. You can use Blackboard. You can use PPT. You can enact it. You can do skits and things like that. And then there was a presentation, and what I could see that most of the groups, they enacted it, or if not, they have not enacted fully, they enacted part of it. And if they have not enacted, they have created certain objects, what we call in theater properties. So for punchlight, for other things, so punchlight is about light, commencements of light, or all that. So they just created that, and then they were so engaged while presenting these things. And I, as a teacher, was supposed to assess all those presentation. And then I just looking at the presentation, I just put down my pen, and then I just stopped kind of assessing, because that was a moment where I get, where as a teacher you feel so accomplished. And if you are a teacher, you know that we have our secret and sacred moments of accomplishment. And that was one such rare moment of accomplishment. And I thought it's not possible to be objective at the moment. So I just stopped assessing, and then just realized something. See, I could see that, look, these are master students. These are not kindergarten students. These are master students. For the kindergarten student, we know that they need tactile experiences. Tactile means they need to touch things. They need to touch their learning aids and learning materials. We know that they need to dance, and they need to engage bodily with their learning, full body. It's not just your mind or your hearing or your eyes and your sound. It's a full body engagement. And what I could see that these master students they are fully engaged, bodily engaged with the idea of modernization. They are experiencing the idea of modernization, which probably no reading in sociology will provide them. So then you realize that having these tactile experience, having these embodied presence in classroom, adds something. It has such an essential element and something which you don't want to lose. So I'll stop here. I have taken more time than I had promised to. If there will be a question, I'll be happy, engaging with those questions. Not promising that I am going to answer your questions, but definitely I'll be happy engaging with them. Thank you, and thanks for listening, and thanks for coming, in late afternoon. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Manoj sir. Thanks for the engaging presentation. We do have a few questions, so I will just read them out to you, and you can probably answer them. Yeah, so the first question is, with so many edtech tools in the market, how do you see that impacting the importance of classroom education?
Right. So finally, there would be things in the market, and many things in the market is going to help us as well. We as a teacher, we are user, right? while we are user, we should take responsibility, and we should evaluate just each material based on our learning objective and our learning goals. We should not be used. So rather than being used by technology, overwhelmed by technology, no matter whether you are good in technology or not, don't get overwhelmed as a teacher. Take charge of technology. Don't allow technology to take charge of you, right? Initially, when we started doing online classes, we were a little overwhelmed. We thought that technology is taking charge of us, and then probably we somewhere, we started controlling these technologies, right? We started, using these technologies. So, if you are asking me, probably I'll say that I'll see that whether this is bringing opportunity for certain kind of engagement, which is not possible without this aid, then probably I'll use that. There will be certain practical considerations also. There will be cost effectiveness of things as well. But the you know the key question to ask is whether it is going to enhance something which is significant for my learning goal or not. If it is not, no matter how attractive it is, we should we should just say that probably we don't need it, or we need to convince ourselves. Yeah.
Okay. The next question is, we are talking about robot teachers, that is, teachers, machines powered with artificial intelligence. How does this have a future? Machines replacing teachers in a classroom.
Again, does this have a future? I don't know. Should it have a future? I definitely so no. And that is the question I was answering. That yes, and I'm aware of some of these changes that through artificial intelligence, through various kind of algorithms and learning paths, people are creating right learning paths through various technologies. That if a student are not answering this question, then probably a student will get into certain paths. If they are answering this question, they'll take this path. And imagining a student as a fixed learning entity, and imagining a student as a mind, not as a mind, body, and soul, rather as a mind, not as a social person, rather as an individual person, right? So with that, that imagination, you have this artificial intelligence coming in, and that artificial intelligence can only be helpful if it is getting used in a classroom by teacher and students. And again, we should not be in that dystopic situation. That movie came 5-10 years back. What was that movie, Sanjana? Where machine started controlling the whole civilization. So we don't want that kind of dystopic situation where machine started dictating us, right? So that's where I am more keen to take this as a question of desirability, because I'm not certain about feasibility. It's possible that in future, your grammar will be corrected by artificial intelligence, because grammatical rules are fixed. But whether you allow artificial intelligence to write poetry for you or not, that is the question we need to ask. Grammatical correction they can do, because grammar probably to some extent can be fit into artificial intelligence and algorithms. But poetry, which creates rule and then defies the rule, probably poetry is something which is human and which we want to retain. Yeah. And element of poetry is there in teaching also. So element of that creativity is there in poetry, and probably that creativity we want to retain, and for that we need complete human presence in our classroom.
Thank you, sir. Um, the next question is your views on massive open online courses. Are we saying online education will not work for school education?
My sense so far is that online education will work in tandem with offline interactions. I don't see that online modes are replacing us. So see, uh, and there are a lot of potential with online. I should not be denying that. So we need to get into this lifelong learning mode. And for lifelong learning mode, suppose you have done your schooling, you have done your college, you are working, and you don't have opportunity to go to the classroom, physical classroom, because going to physical classroom is also has this also has opportunity cost. You have to set aside your jobs. So there are a lot of potential of online classes. But if you have gone through certain phases of learning in your life in a school and in colleges, then probably online classes will also help, or part of online class, if it is blended well with the offline, probably it will help. That possibilities are there, and we should not do away with this possibility. So I said that we should not be Luddites, kind of breaking all those machines. But when both, we should not be overwhelmed, and we should not all be complete denial, or sort of a skeptics, media skeptics, sorry, technology skeptics. Yeah.
Okay. The next question is teachers who believe teaching face to face but forcefully teaching online and completely disappointed with the ways of online teaching. How to cope up with this situation?
Talk to your kids, talk to parents, talk to your headmaster, talk to your leaders, and give them good reason, right? Because it's also about thinking. It's also, and it is coming in this way because some probably in our actual physical classroom also, we have not created a relationship which is based on I and thou. In a physical classroom also, we have objectified our student, and we have done things in a very transactional mode, where teacher knows everything and student they only need to receive. If you get into that model, then probably anybody will say that online is as good as offline, right? So probably we need a lot more conversation with different stakeholders if you want to kind of understand these things, and trust your intuition. As a teacher, I'm trusting my intuition as much as I'm trusting theories. So I brought these two theories I mentioned, Martin Buber and McLuhan, just to substantiate my point. But I had this intuitive sense that probably we are losing something in online classes. But when we were in a situation where we were in a happy situation, as you know, Sanjana, that we had great technology support. We
Yeah.
have team here; they were ready to help us in any way. But even in this situation, even if you are not selling in Bangalore, it works. It works. Your broadband works better than many other cities. But here also, we started feeling feeling something and certain kind of discomfort. So think about what is the discomfort you're feeling. Trust your intuition and have conversation, have discussion. That's the only way to do. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, so the next question is many might defend virtual classrooms, saying that they are creating a virtual world. The I and thou engagement can happen virtually as well. So, how do I respond in defense of physical setting?
Well, if technology progresses so much that you can smell other person also while you are online, when you can touch other person also while you are online. So if you even that gives you, I mean, I'm thinking, like a science fiction. So if we get into that situation where total bodily presence in a time and a space is possible through technology while actually you are sitting on a distance, then probably there is a possibility of I and thou relationship. But so far it is not happening. But theoretical answer or to your question is, as I said, non-negotiable is I and thou, entering into the relationship of I and thou, and getting into that framework and treating other person as a person, and getting into situation of total communication where we need embodied presence of both student and teacher. So that's non-negotiable. If technology, say 500 years later, does that, then probably will change our stand. Technology have not done it so far over the 2,500 years, from the invention of writing to the invention of internet. That much I can say.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's the questions for today. Thank you so much once again, Manoj sir. Thank you
Yeah.
for everyone who was listening.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks,
Thank
Sanjana, and thanks everyone for joining. Yeah.
So I think we'll end the session here for today.